welcome to Chillin' Solo, where I play solo modes of board games so that you guys can see how they work and what they play like, and see that you can enjoy chilling solo with the board game. Today we are going to be playing The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. Now, Lord of the Rings, the trick-taking game is a cooperative trick-taking game where we'll be going through the story of the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring, playing different chapters and trying to accomplish different goals. So before we get into the playthrough, I'm going to do an overview of the rules. First of all, I'll talk to you quickly about how basic trick-taking games work, and then I'll talk a little bit about what's different with this particular version of the trick-taking game. So in a trick-taking game, each player is dealt a hand of cards from a deck that is made up of a number of different suits, and each suit includes a range of numbers. In most trick-taking games, the idea of the game is to win as many tricks as possible. Now, a trick consists of when each player plays one card from their hand, and usually whoever plays the highest card of a particular suit will win that trick. So for example, if Frodo here was to play the first card, he would choose a card from his hand, play it into the center of the table. In this case, he's playing the 8 of Mountains. This then is called the lead suit. As it is the first card played for this trick, this is the lead suit, meaning that now everybody else, if they have a matching suit to this, they must play a card of that suit. So then we move on to Bilbo here. He has mountains in his hand, so he must play a mountain card. So he would play this 6, for example. Gandalf also has a mountain, so he would have to play his mountain card. And Pippin also would have to play a mountain card. After all players have played cards, we see who has the highest value card of the lead trick. So in this case, Frodo, who played the 8 of Mountains, has the highest mountain card, so he wins this trick. So he takes that and keeps it nearby as a scoring pile. Whoever wins the trick will then lead the next trick. So Frodo again could play another card out into the center. So he chooses to play the 7 of Mountains. Bilbo still has a mountain card, so must play his mountain card, plays the 2 of Mountains. Now Gandalf no longer has a mountain card left. When this happens, the player can choose any suit he wishes to play into the trick. So let's say Gandalf plays the 8 of Hills there. Pippin also has a mountain still, so Pippin must play his mountain. Then we check to see who wins the trick. Now, the winner of the trick, again, is the player who played the highest value of the lead suit. The lead suit was a mountain, and Frodo has played the highest value with the 7. Even though Gandalf played a card valued 8, because it was not of the lead suit, it basically is a useless card and it doesn't affect the trick. So Frodo, again, would win this trick, taking that for himself. So that's the basic premise of a trick-taking game. Now let's have a little look at what makes the Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game, a little bit different from normal trick-taking games. First of all, let's have a look at the deck of cards itself. The deck is made up of 5 different suits. So we have the forests, we have the hills, we have shadow, we have mountains, and we have rings. Now, hills, mountains, forests, and shadows are all made up of cards valued 1 to 8, whereas the ring is slightly different. The ring suit is made up of cards numbering 1 to 5. What also makes the ring suit slightly different to other trick-taking games maybe is that we are not allowed to lead with a ring card until rings have been what's called broken. Now this means that a ring card has been played into a trick without being the lead card. So for example, if now Frodo was to take his turn again, he could play. He's going to lead the trick. He can play any card he likes. So he's going to play his 5 of Mountains. Now, Bilbo does not have a mountain, so he can play any card he wishes. So he is going to choose to play the 2 of Rings because he is now allowed to. Because he is allowed to do that. Because the only rule is that you cannot lead with a ring until the rings have been broken. Now he's played a ring card into a trick. Rings are considered to be broken. So we would carry on finishing off this round there. Maybe Gandalf also plays his ring card. Pippin again can't play anything, so he's going to play his shadow as he doesn't have any mountains. Frodo wins that trick. So now rings have been broken. Frodo can, if he wishes to, lead with a ring card. So he chooses to lead with a 5 of rings. Now everybody else must play a ring card if they have it. Nobody does. So they all get to play any card of their choice into the trick. And because rings was the lead card and Frodo and nobody else played a ring, Frodo has the highest valued ring card, so he again wins that trick. The final thing to be aware of with the ring suit is that there is this one ring to rule them all. It says on here that you may choose, when you play this card, you may choose to win this trick. So basically this is what's called a trump card. So this card can beat anything at all. So for example, let's say it's Bilbo's turn to lead the trick. Bilbo is going to lead with an 8 of shadows. Gandalf must play a shadow card, so he's going to play his 7 of shadows. Pippin doesn't have a shadow card, so he can play anything he wants. He'll play his hills. And Frodo doesn't have a shadow card either, so he can play any card that he wants. So he chooses to play his one ring, and he chooses to win this trick because that is the power of that card. So even though he hasn't played a suit of the lead suit, and it's a lower value, because it's the one ring and it's special, he chooses to win this trick, and this trick goes to Frodo. The other thing that makes the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game different from others is that this is a cooperative game. So whereas in most trick-taking games, it's a competition to see who can win the most tricks or who can win the tricks that will give them the most points. In this case, we are working together to try and accomplish certain goals. So over the course of the game, we'll be playing through different chapters. Each chapter will introduce us to different characters, and each character will come with a specific goal that they are trying to achieve. And if we can meet the goal of every character included in that chapter, then we win the chapter. So for example, Frodo has a victory condition marked with this star here of win 4 or more ring cards. So by the end of the round, and a round consists of playing through the whole deck of cards when everybody has played out their entire hand. At the end of a round, if Frodo has won 4 or more ring cards within the tricks that he has won, then his goal has been accomplished. And we need to complete every character's goal in that scenario to win the chapter. Each character also comes with a little setup thing that may or may not let us do certain things before we start the chapter to maybe help us to organize our cards a bit better, but I'll explain them a bit more during the chapter itself when we go through the playthrough. So that's how you play Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking card game, and that's how you would normally play it with a full set of players. So I will quickly reshuffle the deck now and set up for a solo game, and I'll explain how the solo game works, because it works slightly differently to how you would normally play this game. So we'll just give me 2 seconds to reset this, and I'll be back with you in a minute. Okay, welcome back to the table. So I'll quickly run through how the solo mode works for this game now before we start playing through the chapter itself. Now, when you set up for a round of the game, you first of all will shuffle the deck, and we always remove one card from the deck as a lost card. So there'll always be one card out of the deck. It's never allowed to be the one of rings, because obviously that's the one ring needs to be in the game. But other than that, one card will get removed from the deck. Then in the solo game, we're always in control of 4 hands of cards. Each hand will have a hand size of 4 cards. So I've dealt out 1, 2, 3, 4 hands of 4 cards each. When dealing out the hands, I will always remove the one of rings from the deck to ensure that always gets dealt to somebody. And then I will deal out the hands. Whichever hand has the one of rings in it must belong to Frodo. It says on his setup ability there that the player that is dealt the one ring is Frodo. After that, then, I can assign whatever characters we have for that particular chapter to the other 3 hands. So, for example, I could look at the hands and figure out what I think may be better suited to their particular goal. So let's just say we want Gandalf to have this card, this hand, Pippin to have this hand, and Bilbo to have this hand. The rest of the cards then are set in a deck just up here that we'll be going through as the chapter progresses. So after this is set up, you play it just as you normally would with the trick-taking game, except I can see all the 4 hands and I can choose how each hand gets played. So Frodo will start off the chapter since he is the ring bearer. and we just go to play as normal. So he's not allowed to play his ring card to start with because rings need to be broken before we can lead with them. The game comes with this little token here that we'll play with. So we set it to this side when we start the game to say that rings cannot be led with. And once we break the rings, we'll flip the token over, and that'll indicate to us that we can now lead with ring cards. So, as I said, we will play as normal. So Frodo will decide what card he wishes to play. So let's say he decides to play the 7 of Mountains. He'll play that there. Gandalf must play a mountain card if he has one, which he does. So he is going to play his 3 of Mountains. Pippin does not have a mountain card, so can play anything he wishes. So he decides to play his 4 of Rings. And Bilbo also has nothing mountain-wise, so he decides to play his 3 of Rings. Frodo has the highest value card of the lead suit, which is Mountains, so Frodo wins this trick. And now, because rings were broken in that hand, in that trick, we can now flip this token over, and now we can lead with rings. And before we move on to the next trick in the solo game, we then, from the deck of cards, deal out an extra card into each hand. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we play another trick. And we just keep going until we've run through the deck and played out all of our cards from our hands, and hopefully have completed everybody's objective. So that's how you play the solo mode of The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. Now once more, I'm just going to clean up and reshuffle and re-deal out the cards, and we'll get into playing through Chapter 1. Be back in a second. Okay, welcome back to the table. I've set up ready to play through Chapter 1 of the campaign. So each chapter comes with a little card here that will give us a little story as to what's going on in that chapter and some setup things that we'll need to go through before we play. So let's read through Chapter 1. Chapter 1. When Mr. Bilbo Baggins of Bag End announced that he would shortly be celebrating his 11th birthday with a party of special magnificence, there was much talk and excitement in Hobbiton. Now, if we turn the card over, it tells us this is Chapter 1, a long-expected party. And then it gives us a list of characters that we need for this scenario, for this chapter. In this case, we are told to get Frodo, Bilbo, Gandalf, and Pippin, which we have here. We've got Frodo already assigned to a hand, and then we've got Bilbo, Gandalf, and Pippin to choose from as well. Now, some of the characters in each chapter will come with little asterisks next to their name. These characters must be chosen for this chapter. So in this case, the characters that are mandatory for this chapter are Frodo and Bilbo, and Gandalf and Pippin would be optional, dependent on the player number. Since we're playing with 4 hands and we only have 4 characters to choose from, we're going to play with all 4 anyway. But if there were more than 4 characters to choose from, we would always have to play with Frodo and Bilbo because they are mandatory. And then out of the remaining characters, we could choose which characters we wanted for the other 2 hands, depending on what cards we've sort of had and what goals we feel like we could achieve. Then on the other page of the card here tells us our victory condition. So this is a short game, meaning that we're only going to play 1 round. So 1 round again is when we have played through all of the deck and all of our hands are empty of cards. And as long as we have finished all of the chosen characters' victory conditions, then we will win the chapter. So now the next thing to do is assign each character to a hand of cards. So let's quickly look at each character's victory conditions and setup abilities. So we've seen Frodo. His victory condition is that he needs to win 4 or more ring cards. Now in the solo mode, Frodo is a double-sided card. It comes with 1 side when you play for 2, when you're playing with 4 players, and 1 side when you're playing with 3 players. Again, there's special rules for 2 players and solos. But it says in the rulebook that if you're playing solo mode, then you want to play Frodo on the 3-player side. So his victory condition is to win 4 or more ring cards. His setup ability is that the player who is dealt the 1 ring card has to be Frodo, which we've already done. You cannot exchange the 1 ring card. So some people's setup abilities allow them to exchange cards with other players. The 1 ring card can never be exchanged. And it says that he will lead the first trick. So Frodo will always start each round. So let's have a look at Bilbo here. We have Bilbo. He is peculiar. And his victory condition is that he needs to win 3 or more tricks. So as long as he wins at least 3 tricks during the chapter, then his victory condition will be fulfilled. And he has no set of ability. On to Gandalf. Gandalf is the Grey Wizard. His victory condition is that he needs to win 1 or more tricks. So as long as he wins at least 1 trick, that's his condition fulfilled. His set of ability is that he adds the lost card to his hand and then exchanges with Frodo. So the lost card for this game, the one that was taken out before we dealt out the cards, is the Four of Hills. So during setup, Gandalf will take this card into his hand. So Gandalf will have 1 extra card than everybody else. So by the end of the round, Gandalf will still have 1 card left in his hand while everybody else is finished. And then he gets to exchange cards with Frodo in particular if he wishes to do so. Next we have Pippin. Pippin is a fool, and his victory condition is that he needs to win the fewest tricks or tie for the fewest tricks. So as long as by the end of the round he has won the fewest amount of tricks, his victory condition is fulfilled. His set of ability is that he is allowed to exchange with either Frodo, Sam, or Merry. In this case, only Frodo is in this chapter, so Pippin will be exchanging with Frodo. However, another rule that is stipulated for solo mode only is that you can only use 1 exchange. I think it's designed to make it a tiny bit harder for us. So even though Gandalf and Pippin can both exchange from their set of abilities, we are only allowed to use 1 of those exchanges. We'll have to have a look and decide what we think is best for us to do. Okay, so now we can assign these characters to these different hands. So right off the bat, I can see that this hand has 2 8s in it already, so that might be a good way to start for Bilbo, since Bilbo has to win 3 tricks at least. Having 2 8s in his hand stands him in good stead to win 2 tricks at least there. So maybe we give Bilbo this hand. Gandalf needs to win 1, and Pippin needs to win the least. So maybe we give Pippin this hand. A couple of 1s. The 7 can be beaten by this 8, and he's just got the 6. Yes, maybe we'll give Pippin this hand. It just looks like a low valued hand. So we'll give Pippin this one, and Gandalf can have this hand. Okay, so now after we've assigned all the characters, we're going to go through their set abilities. This is done in clockwise order, usually in multiplayer mode. Again, we'll do it in clockwise order here as well, just in case that makes some sort of difference. So Frodo doesn't have a set of abilities, just the fact that he's going to lead the first trick. Gandalf adds the lost card to his hand. So that card comes into his hand, so Gandalf has an extra card to play with. And he can now exchange with Frodo. Remember, we're only allowed to do 1 exchange. So do we want to exchange a card with Gandalf, or do we want to exchange a card with Pippin? Not necessarily sure it's beneficial to switch with Gandalf, because what I'm thinking is, since Pippin has some high cards here, it might be worth just giving a high card to Frodo, so he doesn't have such high cards in his hand to make it easier for him not to win tricks, because we don't want him to win very many tricks. We want him to have the least at the end of the game. So yeah, so we're not going to do this exchange with Gandalf. Then we move to Bilbo. Bilbo has no setup. Pippin's setup is to exchange with Frodo, Sam, or Merry. He is going to exchange with Frodo, and he is going to exchange his 6 of Forest for Frodo, 3 of Mountains. And then we can get into starting the game. So Frodo is going to lead the first trick, and what I'm going to do is start. I'm going to try and break the rings as early as I can. So since we've got quite a few of them out here, I'm going to play the 6 of Mountains with Frodo. Gandalf has to play a mountain, so he's going to choose to play the 5 of Mountains. Bilbo doesn't have any mountains, so I'm going to play the 4 of Rings, break in rings, so we can flip this token over to say we can lead with ring cards now. And Pippin is going to play the 3 of Mountains. Frodo wins that trick, playing the highest value of the lead suit. And we're just going to keep this ring off card off to the side here so we can keep track of how many he's won, since he needs to win 4 of the ring cards. So that's one of the 4 ring cards that he needs to win the game, to complete his condition. Now we've all played a card each. We've played 1 trick. We're going to deal out new cards for the hands. 1 there for Frodo, 1 for Gandalf, 1 for Bilbo, and 1 for Pippin. Okay, so I could lead with rings now if I wanted to and just win some more ring cards, but I might want to wait until more ring cards come out. Maybe it's worth starting to get Bilbo winning some tricks because he needs to win 3 or more. So what we're going to do is play the 7 of Hills, because Frodo won the last trick, he leads this one. Gandalf is going to play the 2 of Hills. We want him, he needs to win at least 1 trick by the end of the game, so we want to get rid of all of his high cards straight away. Bilbo then has to play a hill. He only has the 1 hill card, which is the 8 of Hills. And Pippin has to play the 3 of Hills. Bilbo played the highest card of that suit, so Bilbo wins that trick. That's 1 trick, 1 for Bilbo. Okay, now we deal out some new cards. Oh, look at that. Frodo's got another ring. He's got 3 more rings for him to win, which should be fairly easy for him to win as long as he wins a trick soon. So, is it worth us giving the win back to Frodo so he can start playing his rings out of his hand? If he, yeah, no, we'll be all right. I think we'll manage. Let's carry on with trying to get Bilbo his objective. So we're going to start with Bilbo playing the 8 of Shadows. The shadow has to be played here. Pippin's going to play the 7 to get rid of a high card so he doesn't win any tricks that he doesn't want to win. Frodo is going to play the 6 of Forest. He don't want to get rid of his ring cards. He wants to win them. And Gandalf has to play a shadow, so he plays his 3 of Shadow. And Bilbo wins that one. That is Bilbo's 2nd trick. We'll deal out some new cards. 1, 2, there's the final ring. 3 and 4. So Bilbo only needs to win 1 more trick. But he can't win that right now, because any card he played can be beaten by other players. So what we want to do is maybe give Gandalf his win, because he needs to win at least 1 trick. So let's go with Bilbo playing the 1 of Hills. Pippin doesn't have a hill, so he's just going to get rid of his highest card with this 6. Frodo doesn't have a hill, so he's going to play the 4 of Forest because he doesn't want to win yet. And Gandalf then is going to play the 5 of Hills, meaning Gandalf wins that trick. And that is Gandalf's. So Gandalf has now won 1 or more tricks, so he has completed his objective. No matter what happens for the rest of the round, that is going to be completed. So we will mark Gandalf with one of these little tokens to say he is finished. I will deal out cards again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now it looks like we can give Bilbo his win now for his 3rd trick. If we start with Gandalf, since he won the last trick, he's going to play the 4 of Hills. Bilbo has to play his 6 of Hills. Then Pippin doesn't have one, so he's just going to get rid of his 5 of Shadows. Frodo is just going to play his 1 of Forest, and that is a win for Bilbo, playing the highest valued hill card. That is his 3rd trick. He needs to win 3 or more, so regardless of what happens, he has completed his objective. Bilbo is done. Let's deal out some new cards again. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so now we've run out of the deck. We're just going to play out everybody's hand, and once their hands are empty, that will be the end of the round, and hopefully we've completed the objectives by then. We don't need to worry about Gandalf and Bilbo anymore. They're done. We just need to make sure Frodo gets 4 rings and Pippin wins the least amount of tricks, which should be fairly simple for us to do. So it's Bilbo's turn. Bilbo is going to start by playing his 8 of Forests. Again, Pippin doesn't have one, so he's just going to get rid of his 4 mountains. Now, Frodo doesn't have one, so he can play any card he wants. He's going to play the 1 ring, and he is going to choose to win this trick. So the 1 ring, again, trumps everything else that's played on this trick. Gandalf has to play a forest, so he's going to play his 7. And Frodo, wins that trick, giving him his 2nd ring card. And let's keep track of Frodo's tricks here as well. So Frodo has won 2 tricks, because that will matter for Pippin's objective. Now we don't deal any more cards, so we got nothing to deal, so we'll just carry on. Frodo will lead the trick, playing his 5 of rings. Gandalf must play a ring card, so he plays his 2. Bilbo can play anything, he'll play his 4 of shadows. Pippin will play his 2 of shadows, and Frodo wins that one. And he has now won 4 ring cards, so we can mark Frodo as complete. We still have to play out the rest of the round, because Pippin still could possibly technically win some more trips, but he's not going to. So we'll just play 3 of rings. Gandalf will play the 8 of mountains, 3 of forest from Bilbo, and the 1 of shadows from Pippin, giving Frodo another win. And then finally, Frodo plays the 2 of mountains, Gandalf plays the 7, Bilbo plays 2 of forest, and Pippin plays the 1 of mountain, giving Gandalf the win there. So now we check to see if Pippin's objective is complete. He needs to win the fewest tricks. He's won 0 tricks, giving him the fewest and completing the chapter. And there we are. We have won chapter 1 of the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game. Hope you enjoyed watching that chapter. It was a fairly easy chapter. It's just the introductory one. Chapters, I'm sure, will get a bit more difficult and tasking as we go through the story. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Please don't forget to leave comments, like, and subscribe to the channel. And hopefully I'll see you on the next video where we'll be going through chapter 2. See you later.